if you were the Shah of Iran circa 1979 and you wanted a Mercedes truck, but Mercedes didn't make one, you just asked them to make you a truck, and they did, and that's how the G-Wagon came about. So 1979 they were released for the military mainly, and then went through several iterations before finally coming to the US market in 2002. I'm in a 2004 right now, which is largely unchanged from the one that came to the US in 2002. It's got a 5-liter V8, 292 horsepower, 336 foot-pounds of torque. The one I'm driving is Expo ready, so it's awesome. It was just built. It's got an ARB tent, ARB awning. It's got an Old Man Emu lift. It's got BF K02s, powder-coated wheels, some LED lights, a drawer system. I mean, this thing is awesome. Probably going to take it to the Overland Expo in Asheville this year, and it's totally badass. So if you're familiar with the G-Wagon, and I think everybody is at this point, you know, I think when these first came out, the only people that bought them were people that played basketball or football, guys that wore Ed Hardy shirts maybe with like red dragons and stuff on them, and housewives, like Beverly Hills 5-foot housewives with big purses like the size of Rhode Island. But now they're kind of accessible. So this one at like 40 grand, it's a 2004. Normal people are starting to buy them, and they don't look as obnoxious as they used to. Like, who's the a-hole driving the G-Wagon? You know, now they're accessible, and now people are using them off-road and beating them up a little bit. And you know, I think for the price point, I love G-Wagons. First of all, let's get that out of the way. I'm a total fanboy. I love the shape. The shape has been around 35 years. Mercedes' longest standing vehicle is the G-Wagon. It's not a car, it's not the S-Class, it's not the C-Class. Actually, they've been making the Unimog for that long too. But so two of Mercedes' longest standing cars, trucks, the Unimog and the G-Wagon, and this one, body panel wise, unchanged since 1979. Man, sure, the electronics and everything have changed, drivetrains, all that, the G63s and the AMGs and all that. But harking back to the days of the cloth and plaid seat manual transmission like W460s, I mean, they look almost identical. And I do love that. I think these are legendary. I think they've reached the 911 type status where you can honestly say that these are just rolling classics. And how do they drive? Well, I love the way these drive, man. They're really heavy. They're about 6,000 pounds. This one, shaped like a juice box. They've always kind of just had that very boxy shape, right? I think they drive awesome for what they are. All things considered, especially this one with the big tires and the lift, handles surprisingly well. The only thing I don't really like is the brakes are a little bit sketchy. 6,000 pounds, once you get rolling, if somebody were to walk out in front of you, probably kill them. If somebody were to drive out in front of you, probably same thing would happen. They might die. So definitely brake early, specifically in this one that's all jacked up. Fuel economy, of course, we know is dismal, but who cares? I mean, look, my Land Cruiser gets like 13 mpg. I don't imagine this one is too much worse. It might be like 10 or 11. So isn't too far off some other mainstream cars in its category. You know what I mean? Range Rovers don't get good fuel economy. The supercharged ones probably get 10 miles a gallon. So I think for what you're getting here, man, these are an amazing value now. Triple locking diffs, solid axles front and rear, timeless design, and again, not as pompous looking as they used to be. You know what I mean? 10 years ago when you saw a G-Wagon, you wondered who was in it. You know, and that big Mercedes tire carrier in the back that said Mercedes Benz on the back. Like, it was just kind of a look at me, you know, I'm an a-hole type of vehicle. But dude, now they're fairly ubiquitous. I mean, definitely like in California, South Florida, there's a lot of G-Wagons. I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, not too many of them, but you do see them around actually. And so not as pompous looking. I think people are starting to realize how cool they look and how off-road they look. And this one with the ARB tent actually drives surprisingly well on the highway, 70 miles an hour. I don't feel a lot of drag with this tent. I mean, they're not aerodynamic to begin with, but I'm really surprised at the highway ride on this one, considering it's on mud tires. I mean, the K02s are straight mud tires. It's relatively quiet in the cabin. I love the greenhouse and the big windows. Again, it's not the most nimble car to drive, but taking it in context to what it is, it's just awesome, and it feels really solid. And the door thunk, the way the door closes, I mean, that is just, to me, singularly probably the best thing about the G-Wagon. And that's going to be a real geeky kind of gearhead thing to say, but like, listening to the door close on a G-Wagon to me is like listening to a cool exhaust note, you know. And I think a lot of 911 guys will probably vouch for me on this one, but and I think that's why a lot of air-cooled guys don't like the water-cooled 911s, because they lost that door close. That the doors were, you know, the doors are frameless now, but they had frames back in the air-cooled days. And when you close the door on a 911, if you've never done it, they have that vault-like thunk. And the G-Wagon has the same thing. If I had to say there were two cars that felt like vaults, it would be the G-Wagon and an air-cooled, any vintage air-cooled 911, man. Strangely enough, I could do this all day. Listen to that. Look at these old school hinges right here. Look at that thing, man. Burly. It's just boom. So for a car that hasn't changed in 35 years, I think the design is still timeless. It doesn't make any sense. There's no reason why it should still be on the road. There's no reason why Mercedes should still be selling this thing. Fuel economy stinks. The road manners aren't that great. But I love the fact that it still exists, man. Tell me what you think in the comments about the Expedition built G-Wagon. I mean, really, would you rather do up a Land Cruiser, a G-Wagon, a Rover? You know, it's definitely a player now, because depreciated, they're fairly inexpensive. So I think it's a great platform, and I think they look awesome. That's all I got for you guys today. Hey, listen, tell me what you think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, please. I'm out of here. Peace.